Okay, so as we were saying, we have a negative 1x, which just becomes negative x, equals negative 2. Well, we still don't have x by itself because there's a negative in front of the x. It's a negative 1. We need a positive 1. So in order for this to become a positive 1, we need to divide by negative 1. So you always divide by whatever is here to get rid of it. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So now we can cancel because negative 1 divided by negative 1 become positive 1. Positive 1x just becomes x. So x equals negative 2 divided by negative 1 becomes positive 2. So we already figured out one of our coordinate points. We figured out x, which is great because now, because we know one thing, now we can solve for the other. So because we know our x, we can now solve for y. So what we're going to do now is we're going to substitute our x into one of our equations. We can choose either the first equation or the second equation because you'll get the same answer. But I always like to use the easier equation. For me, I think the first equation is easier because it doesn't deal with negatives. But either way, you're going to get the same answer. So what you're going to do first is you're going to rewrite the original equation. So we're going to rewrite 2x plus 2y equals 0. And now we're going to substitute x for 2. So down here, we're going to rewrite this equation. We're going to put the 2. We're going to put a parenthesis for wherever we're substituting, plus 2y equals 0. And we're going to fill in our parenthesis with our x, which is 2. I'm going to put it right there. Now we're going to solve. Remember, we multiply first. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2y equals 0. Do we see why it is so important to write everything down? It might seem like a lot, but it keeps everything neat so you're not getting confused with what you're doing. Now, remember, we need to get y by itself. So in order to get y by itself, remember we always remove the constant first. The constant means whatever does not have a variable. So let's remove that. So in other words, in order to remove something, we want to make it 0. So if we want to remove 4, we have to subtract 4 on both sides. Whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Now these two numbers cancel because 4 minus 4 becomes 0. So now we are left with 2y equals 0 plus negative 4, because remember we're always adding. 0 plus negative 4 is negative 4. Now we need to get y by itself. Well, it's not by itself because it's a 2 times y. So in other words, we want to make it equal to 1y. So we have to divide by the same number, 2, and we have to divide by 2. Now those cancel because 2 divided by 2 becomes 1. 1y becomes just y. Y equals negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. Bam, we solved x and y. We found our two coordinate points. And so over here, we're going to write our point of intersection. Point of intersection. Meaning we're looking at where these two graphs, if we were to graph these two lines right here, these two linear equations, we would see that they join, they come together at the point 2, negative 2. That's our coordinate point, our x and our y. So 2, negative 2. And this is where they join together. Now, you could check your answer because algebra is very handy because you can always check your answer. You can plug in your answer back into an original equation to see if you're correct. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go back to my first equation. And I'm going to say, well, 2, I'm going to substitute. So I'm going to put a parenthesis, plus 2, I'm going to substitute. And we're going to see if it equals 0. Well, 2. And our x value is 2. We're going to plug in our y value here, which is negative 2. Now let's solve. Well, 2 times 2 is 4, plus 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. Well, does 4 minus 4 equal 0? Yes, it does. We checked it out. Our point of intersection is correct. Now again, if we were to graph these two lines, we would see that they join at this point. We'll go into graphing in another video. Okay, have a good night.